Good morning, and thank you for joining us for H3 TV, where we meet every week to talk about weathering storms, soaring above the storms, and especially how to stay hopeful, healthy, and happy in whatever storm you're walking through, professionally, personally, or literally. I started this show during COVID when I realized people were sitting home feeling isolated, lonely, and maybe a little lost and disappointed in their life. So I decided, what if I gathered with people every week and brought in a guest to share how do we stay hopeful, healthy, and happy with the hope that our wisdom, our experience, our routines will help you, whether you're walking through a storm or just living a daily life, and you could use a little inspiration and encouragement. Today, my guest is Jaime. So please help me welcome Jaime to the stage. Hey, Jaime.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with me. So tell us a little about you. Who are
Absolutely.
you? Where do you live? What do you do? Who are you?
By day, I consider myself a recovering planner of, ironic enough, 11 years. In this July, it'll actually be the 11th year of being on the AV supplier side. So as I like to say, I've gone to the dark side, but 11. I live in Greenwood, Indiana. So now I'm a national account manager for Choice Live. We're a full service audiovisual production company, actually in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. And I don't know if you know this, but that's the touring capital of the world. So when I'm not working, which I do way more than I probably should in the whole scheme of life that you should enjoy life. I'm a boater. I've been boating since I was 5 down at Lake Monroe in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm an aunt to 2 amazing kiddos who are not little anymore, Addison and Noah, 10 and soon to be 12. My other half is actually in the industry as well, freelancing in our world as a video technician. So yeah, I'd like to say I'm well-rounded, but being on the meetings and events industry side of life, I've hit both sides. So that's me.
Well,
I should also reflect that you'll see it on my LinkedIn profile, but in my walls are yellow. I have been known as sunshine in a room. Love to bring the sunshine as I'm doing things. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. I love sunshine in the room. I love warmth. Sunshine fits so perfectly with our messages. And 2 things about what you said about work. One, I do not think meeting planners or AV are on the dark side. In fact, I think they are the brightest sunshine in my rooms, because when I'm out there speaking without AV and without meeting planners, I don't get to speak. So I love those people and the work they do behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. And second, when we love our work, Jaime, and that's my thing too, people are like, you work so much. I'm like, yeah, but I love it. Like, it's not, I could sit at my desk for 11 hours and talk to amazing people about their conference and how it's going to be amazing. So I think when you love your work, which it looks like you light up a little when you talk about it, you're finding some joy there. So yes, life-work balance is good.
You are correct.
So tell me, when I say the word storm, what do you think of? What comes to mind just thinking of storms?
Lots of storms. I mean, immediately, of course, the weather, right? But when it comes to, I think, just the daily scheduled program of your life, anything that messes it up, right? You have this viewpoint of, here's how my day is going to go, and little things get you to be flexible or to pivot or to move, which I think is the wholehearted part of being a human. There's small ones that happen, like I said, all the time, that keep you on your toes. But then I think the bigger ones are the ones that knock you to your core. So yeah, like it could be extreme or yeah, the
Absolutely.
smaller
I
thing.
think storms, I have a book coming out. Hopefully my deadline's today and my editor's deadline's the 7th of June, called Choose to Soar. And what we write about in the beginning is exactly what you said. Like, there's category 1 to 5 storms. And just because someone else like, oh, that's no big deal. If it inconveniences you, if it disrupts what your plan is, it feels like a storm. And maybe it's not catastrophic, but it's something. Oh, I forgot to say to our listeners, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We will answer either live or after in the comments below. So what has been one of your most challenging storms, professionally, personally, or literally, that you've walked through, Jaime?
Yeah, it's timing is everything. And the fact that we're having this conversation right now is really on point. Actually, this past Tuesday, I actually lost my mother to suicide 11 years ago. So it's ironic as we're out there on, the social medias and this kind of going out there to the masses. And I kind of went on the personal side, but it does bleed over to professionally as well. It was right after Mother's Day, and ironic enough, my nephew was to be born on that day, on the 23rd. Fortunately, fortunately, unfortunately, I don't even know. My sister ended up having him a week before. So I try to like focus on his being around in our world, because needless to say, the month of May is not my favorite month. But like I said, I focus on, the good in his birthday, and of course, excuse me, the joys of, having had an amazing mother, and I my best friend for, 31 years of my life. So it's been hard. 11, like going back to the whole 11, it's kind of ironic, like I said, right? The fact that everything has happened and the timing of everything, but also that storm that like knocked me to my core. I mean, this one definitely was the biggest one. It bled into my professional life as well. I mean, I had just accepted that job to switch over to the supplier side, right, in the AV production company. And I was planning on taking her on all of my trips and all the meetings. I mean, she was always around. She knew my staff when I was a planner at my nonprofit here in Indy. She helped me on the days of the conference. She was, that confidant of just my strength, keep going, So everyone knew her, everyone loved her. She was definitely the life of the party. I mean, it's amazing that I have that quote unquote nickname because she truly embedded that. Just she was sunshine. She was the one that was out there just keeping everybody laughing. And yeah, so that was my storm that I'm, still processing how things evolve. And like I said, the timing of this conversation is great. So
As it's meant to be, right? Like I always think whenever my guests show up, I've had guests where I usually don't send any questions before, and they'll start talking about something, and at the end they'll go, I had no idea I was going to say that. And yet we'll have listeners saying that's what I needed to hear. So first, Jamie, I want to say I'm so sorry for your loss.
thank you.
Second of all, I lost my brother. He turned 22 and he took his life 1 week from that day. And the day before was my 23rd birthday. So we were the same day. And that's March. And so for years, I just sat in sadness. I decided March was a sad month and I didn't really want to celebrate my birthday anymore or his birthday. It was like grieving. And then I spoke in Paris in March of 2015. And I was actually all over Europe for the first time in my life and by myself for 3 weeks, speaking in the Netherlands, visiting a family I had hosted in Spain, and then speaking in Paris. And I decided, so I'm going to challenge you and encourage you with this, is that when I was in Paris, I decided enough.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not sad about my brother, but instead of being sad and dedicating March as a sad month in my life, I'm going to live twice every day. Once for me and once for my brother. And my encouragement to you is you are taking on the beauty of being sunshine, just like your mother, which is such a great reminder to our listeners. Just because someone's smiling or sunny doesn't mean they're not hurting or struggling with mental health or both, or they have their own deep wounds. So remember that, always be kind. But to just encourage you, be that sunshine for yourself and for your clients and for your mom. And the best way we can honor those we've lost is to live for what they didn't get to know. It gets better and it can be beautiful.
It's so true. And truth be told, I do that, right? Like, of course, it definitely wasn't easy in the very beginning, but time, I don't know if necessarily time heals all wounds, but time helps you process it differently and do just that, right? Like living for her, doing the things that she would want us to do, right? So yes, but thank you. And not that May, it triggers, it's like that moment of, oh, this is May. But even this May, this past May, I go into it going, okay, this is going to be tough. But because I have Noah, I have my nephew who we focus on that, but I also still focus on mom as well. And I know, we'll continue the conversation, but, it was interesting this year. It was almost like a comatose feeling on her day. So it wasn't, I embrace it. I try to find the good. I try to tell the stories and all that stuff. So
and you're doing it right now. I mean, you're continuing her voice and her story. And we know always people are listening. And another thing you said, this is on the personal side. So I'm considered kind of a heart and soul speaker, and people want me to be very strategic, which I am. But I also recognize we bring our whole self to our workplace, wherever we work, and it affects our thinking, it affects our ability, our success. And so I just never feel like it's two separate things. Personal and professional are the same lane. It is all part of us, our family that we've lost, our people that we love, friends and family that are hurting, or struggling with their own story. And so, let alone our own. So thank you for being willing to be vulnerable and authentic and share that, because I always know whatever is shared, somebody needs to hear. And unfortunately, suicide, not only did I lose my brother, but his son 22 years later took his life. And so if we don't talk about that, if we leave it with shame and stigma and silence, it just repeats, right? So we can heal through saying, hey, beautiful, happy people have hurt, and there's help and there's hope. And so let's move into that. So how did you, or do you, stay hopeful through that storm, which you already touched on a little with your
Yeah.
nephew, but what are some things you personally do when that sadness comes in and steals your joy? How do you stay hopeful?
Absolutely. Well, let me step back and give you my deepest sympathies for your losses as well. Everyone who's hearing this, watching this, it's out there, and it's definitely not easy. I mean, I know the biggest thing, especially immediately, is that support that you get from your friends, right, to help keep you going. I mean, I could go into detail of that the day of, and then the time frame that I just lost, right? Like, because it's a shock to the system, and but having those friends and the support to basically make sure you're eating, make sure you're moving forward, giving you what you need, and ensuring that you're in a safe space. You know, the biggest piece, and how to continue to stay hopeful, aside from the roller coaster of emotions that definitely happen on a day to day, like I said, the first few years definitely extremely hard. I mean, those moments hit you to your core. I mean, and not to say that that doesn't happen daily, but I think the biggest piece is, how you prep yourself, right? Who you're surrounded with. And in my case, I think the biggest help was, truth be told, I felt like I had to lose my mother to find my other half. That I mentioned earlier, will be 11 years this December. It's that fact of a person who brings it out of me. And he never met her, right? Because she was already gone after, before we had met. But his way of doing it's that asking the questions, right? Talking about her. He wanted to know her, to where now when we go visit the gravesite or we talk about her, he talks to her all the time. He's like, "Hey, Lavinia," or I feel like I know you, and he feels like he knows her because I tell those stories. And I think that's another thing that has helped my sister, and maybe my niece and nephew, and even my father to an extent. It's keeping her memory alive, right? Having those conversations, bringing up the funny things that she would do, or say, or how she would be, but talking about her, keeping her alive, like you said. I mean, I think the other piece is taking care of myself. I think, I used to run quite a bit before she passed, and it was a struggle to get back into running. Of course, now I'm, 11 years later, of course, I'm back to running, and I enjoy that. I'm doing more meditation and yoga, and just trying to stay positive, stay hopeful, because I think that's the biggest piece is you keep going, right? And in her memory, you keep going.
Yeah.
So
I love that my husband never got to meet my brother. And so I love that you're still introducing. Like,
yeah,
here
oh,
she is. Let me
yeah,
tell you about my mom, and that you have a partner that not only cares to want to know her and doesn't think, okay, really, like, how am I going to meet her, Jamie? Like, she's not here. No,
right,
she's here. She's
right.
here. And I want to tell you about her. And I want to tell you what she think of you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I want you to hang out with her at the cemetery. And so, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, he would drag it out of her to where it also triggers other memories, right? Our memories, we have years of lost memories that come up from smells or conversations or stories of different things.
Yeah.
It's nice to keep it going. I mean, I will say I sound like her. I mean, I have the laugh like her. So I also hear her through me, which is kind of fun. I mean, it even happened this past weekend. Tell you a little story. I had my niece and nephew, and at one point I just had my nephew. And so he wouldn't get on the inner tube without me. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I'm on the inner tube, and I'm squealing. And I remember being a kid, my sister and I would be on the boat, and my dad's driving the boat, and my mom would just be yelling and screaming and yelling my dad's name. And so, it's comical, and I could hear her voice. I can hear her laugh. And then I'm like crying of, tears of joy, like, just, okay, she's, however you think it. I mean, I'd say I'm more spiritual. I'm not as religious. So it's hard for me when people are like, oh, she's looking down on you, or, but I try to find the good in it, right? The universe is there, and she's in me, right? Like, she made me. So yeah.
It's part of you.
Yeah.
It's so funny because a guy posted this morning on LinkedIn, and then my daughter yesterday invited us, and we were saying, like, the greatest gift is getting to have that. And it sounds like, those special birthdays with your mom, which you don't get to have that necessarily today, but she showed up for your conferences. She
Yeah.
did those things for you. So I don't know if you know this, but every color tells a story.
Mm.
and every color has a meaning. And the
Okay.
color yellow is the color of hope. So it's kind of like the sun will come out tomorrow. As I say, I'm, little orphan Annie, people remember my name, but yellow is the color of hope. And
Huh.
so it's actually when you wear yellow or when you surround, it says, I'm hopeful, and it projects a subliminal message to the world that hope is part of who you are and you have a hope, a good hope for the future. So I love that. You
I,
already kind of touched on this, but healthy. So
yes.
what we're not, because I mean, hope is about like getting out of bed and going forward in the hard stuff, right? Like it's going to get better. I believe it's going to get better. I'm going to work toward it getting better. My nephew is hope for my future, my niece. But how did you say healthy? And you sounded like you kind of had some routines in there for your physical health, but mental, emotional health. How did you stay
Yeah.
healthy? Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. I did kind of touch on that. I mean, I will say when it happened, everybody would tell me just keep yourself busy, right? So there's good and bad to that, and I did do that. Keep yourself busy, keep moving forward, focus on work, do what you can. Um Also stay away from alcohol, right? Like nothing like a depressant during that, so kind of keeping that in check. I mean, I will say I was not necessarily the healthiest right out the gate because I lost my appetite, but throwing myself back into, okay, what does my body need? How do I keep moving forward? Whether it's getting back into running. I kind of mentioned the meditation, with Headspace, and yoga with Adrienne actually on YouTube. I actually do that daily, and actually every morning now. Well, okay, maybe not this past week, and as I mentioned earlier, but I do Headspace at least 5 minutes, if not 10 to 15. Through Headspace, the app. And don't get me wrong, I am not perfect at it. There are days that I'm like, am I even doing this right? And that's of course the point of it, but it's just kind of trying to slow yourself down. I'm very much a go, go, go person. And so that helps me. Yoga, definitely a lot of the stretching with what yoga does for you, running, but then also eating healthy, right? Trying to get to those salads, trying to be mindful of what I consume to know how my body's going to react on what I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, getting outside, therapy in that sense of it, and therapy there too, right? I mean, of course, having a therapist to talk to, friends. I mean, that's the biggest, I think probably the biggest thing for me is having those people who get it, who either newer or just knowing who you can talk to when you're down, or you need to lean on some people.
Yeah, great, great to have community. Something you said, Jamie, that I want to repeat because I think it's really important and sadly often rare is that when we're hurting, when we're feeling down, turning to alcohol seems like a hidden, like I can't think about it, I can't deal with it. But as Jamie reminded us, alcohol is a depressant.
Yep.
Turning to alcohol doesn't make that pain go away. It might cover it for a moment or distract us, but it can actually make it worse. I'm a go as well. And so, one of the big things I think when we go through storms is needing, and I think it's hard for other people that we need to sit in silence and sadness and to say, I am sad. And I'm not going to stay sad forever, but I'm okay being sad. I miss my mom. That's not what your plan for your life was. She was your best friend. She was your right hand man in your events. And so a woman. And so I think you shared some great wisdom there with that. And you did share before, which I love, that you have your mom's laughter. Oh, that's beautiful. But what did you do to find that laugh, to stay happy? And because it's hard, right? It's really hard to, and then you kind of feel guilty, like, am I supposed to go on? Do I still get to laugh, or should I just sit in the umbrella of sadness? And so,
Yeah, that's a really good point, and not that I forgot it, but I remember feeling that. Should I even be smiling because she's not here, It took a long time. I mean, I will say it's not as the laughter and the smiles are not as big and bold as they were. I mean, we would get together and we would just cackle. I mean, it was insane. So like that type of stuff of missing it is hard to grasp that you're never going to have it again. Now, again, everything happens, everything changes, and you have to find the new avenue of it, right? So, um, one step at a time, one day at a time, and just trying to realize that if mothers, right? I lost my mother, who, not that all mothers are the same, right? Humans are different, but she would want me to be happy. She would want me to continue going. So I think just constantly telling myself that and trying to find those moments of, okay, what moment to moment, what can I do to get through to the next point? Yeah, I think I answered your question. I just got a
Yeah.
little lost in thought, but, yeah, it's tough.
Super tough. And that's the truth is like none of these pieces are easy and they all have to be intentional because like you said, you lose your appetite. You want to just be, I mean, we go inward and even if we have a support system, I think some of the hardest times you can have people all around you still feel lonely
Yeah.
until you decide, okay, wait a minute. I'm not going to, I remember when my brother died, the priest said, whatever you do, don't fall in love with the pain. And I thought it was just the weirdest thing in the world. And months and years later, I could feel myself being in love with the pain, as weird as that sounds. And maybe that's not the same wording I would use, but just being stuck in the pain, stuck in the sadness, and thinking, he didn't get to know it got better. I don't want to know it gets better without him. I wish he was here. I'm sad. I'm mad. And suicide brings a whole nother layer of what if. I talked to my brother two nights before he died. I spent an hour and a half, just him and I, really intentionally talking in a parking lot. And then the day before he died, he left me a voicemail of my birthday wish, and then he died the next day. So you go through different layers of loss with a suicide, and every death, like every human, is different. I'm glad you remember, which I hope that brings you some joy, that she wants you to be happy.
Yeah, and I'll just add one other thing. I don't know if you've ever done the whole word of the year, right? Like you pick
Oh
a
yes,
word to like
always.
theme it, right?
Yeah.
This year is laugh for me. So
Um,
it's almost like double the the effort, right?
I love it.
Of having just something. And of course I've had like flow in the past, or I'm trying to think of the others that the most recent pause. That's another one, right? Taking that moment of pause for us go ladies.
Yes.
But yeah, the intentionally focusing on the word laugh definitely helps you find that humor, right? You
Yeah.
focus the things you focus on, right? Not negative, which
Yes.
ironic enough, you could say, yes, you're very positive, Jamie. My other half will tell you differently. I
I'm positive, but then you should hear what's going on in my head sometimes, right?
uh-huh, uh-huh. And we have to be, cautious of that too. It's how we talk to ourselves. And I have 42 years of beating myself up and saying the wrong things to myself. I do it so I'm not good at it. I understand it. I'm at least aware
Yes.
of it. And it's the
Yes.
next thing. It's yet.
Yes.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
I love the word yet. And I love that it's laugh. That's a great word. I remember 2020, my word was epic. You got to
Oh,
be careful what your word is because it was epic, just not the kind of epic I was looking for, and I love laugh. I've had the word fulfill
oh,
because people say you're so busy. And I'm like, I'm actually not busy. I'm fulfilled because everything on my plate brings me joy. And I love to watch comedy and look for that laughter because sometimes it's hard to find. So, what lessons do you take away from losing your mom? What is a lesson in that has helped you today and going forward?
life's short. Depression sucks. I mean, I struggle myself. Every day is a chance to try again, perhaps get better, years get better. You have your struggles, right? Like, but this too shall pass. I've got a girlfriend who reminds me of that. And I hear her voice every time I get in that low. Feel the feels, do the thing, right? Like get in it, but maybe find that silver lining. Uh, I hate, and I know you shouldn't hate anything, but I hate that I cannot create new memories with her. But I'm grateful for all the stories that I've had with her that I can share with other people. So yeah, life's short.
Life is short. Big lesson. I love, I have three medicines in life, and I know they're not everyone's medicines, but you're hitting on some here. So, the first one is movement.
Yeah.
Movement is my medicine. I must move my body every day. Not always because I feel like it, not because I want to, but because depression stole the first 20 years of my life, and I won't allow it to steal anymore.
Yeah.
So, movement, music,
Mhm.
uplifting, happy music, and laughter. And I owned two gyms for 12 years, and I'm like, nothing makes us feel better than to laugh. And whether that's laughing at ourselves,
Yep.
laughing together, laughing at someone, it doesn't matter. Like just don't take yourself so seriously. Life is short. So that's such a great listen. As you look back at losing your mom, is there anything you wish you would have done differently? And that's a hard question, of course, but is there anything?
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy that I can say that there's nothing I really regret. I mean, I was so close to her that I understand why she went. I feel like I do. Now, we'll never know, right? We'll never know the full depth of it. But I think the thing that I wish I would have either known or had or like developed earlier is a strong emotional intelligence. And I'm still in that journey of getting better than that. Like Mom and I were, are very, very emotional. I think my sister is too. She just has different ways of pushing it out there. She's more internalized. Me, I'm, as you can imagine, I share a lot. Um, but then again, I guess, there's truth be told, there's probably nothing I would change, right? Because every step that took me to where I am today happened because of every step that happened, right? So if I were to go back and change time, well, I would have, of course, cured her depression so that she would have gone. But then, you have those trickle things. It's like all the movies out there that you change one thing and it's going to alter the path. So, I mean,
Yes.
but I will say it would be nice to have a more stronger emotional intelligence. I fear for that for my niece and nephew. Like, you know, humans are interesting and sometimes but timing's everything, right? Like everything's going to happen. Everything happens for a reason when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah. They say humans are interesting, complicated, and fascinating, right?
Yes.
And one thing about suicide, because I'm kind of considered a mental wellness expert, my mother struggles with it. I lost my brother, I lost my father, lost my nephew. I just lost a sister to alcoholism, my father and my sister to alcoholism. So, but one thing I say, because people say, I don't really get suicide, like that seems selfish, or I would never do that. And I say, let me be really clear. This is my belief, is that I don't think anybody wants to die. I don't think anyone wants to kill themselves. What happens in suicide is they no longer know how to live.
Yep.
The
And they
light
don't want the pain.
They want the pain to stop. They're sitting in darkness. They've lost hope, which people say you can live longer without food and water than you can without hope.
Right.
And so I imagine when I think of my brother, and I've been to that point of sadness in my own life, is when I think of my brother, I always think he had no hope. He was just in darkness of nothing will get better. I just need, and they convince themselves people will be better without me. It's not a true story.
True.
It's their story. And so I'm always like, when I meet people and they're like, I don't get suicide, or that seems selfish. I'm like, okay, you don't have to get it. Please accept it and be kind about it, because you're lucky if your mind does not understand that hopelessness and that painfulness. But many people feel like there is no light. There's not even a dim of light anymore. And that's when they lose hope. And it seems like the best answer. So I love that you talk about that. One thing I want to know, Jamie, is how have you used losing your mom to support other people? Because just like this helps people. So how are you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is talking about it, right? It's the awareness. It's breaking that stigma, getting people to understand. Everybody is different. Their brains are wired differently. Not everybody's going to understand it. Some people are going to think it's selfish, but yes, I think it's a matter of having those conversations and connecting with people and sharing those stories so that people feel comfortable to accept it in their life and maybe stop the struggle, right? Like I do this, I actually, ironic enough, I do it over my birthday. And I think it's because of how Facebook allows you to do a donate fundraiser thing, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years. I'd have to go back and look. I donate and fundraise for my month for Suicide Hotline.
Awesome.
And so last year, other than just like posting pictures or saying stuff, last year I did a nice story of every day I would talk about my mom. I'd find a new picture and throw it up there. And I don't know what I'm going to do this August. So I've got a couple months to figure that out, but breaking that stigma, raising money, having the conversations. I mean, even is it May, the mental health month? Thank
Mental
you.
wellness, mental health May is the month. So we're on it. We're doing it.
We're doing it. I
mean, the month strong. Yes.
Timing is everything. And I think it's just a matter of, having those conversations, having people to understand that, yes, I may come at you as sunshine in a room and happy go lucky, but deep down I have struggles too. And let's talk about it. That way they can feel comfortable as well in, having their conversation. So communicating.
I love that. You use a word that I use a lot. So I moved to Fort Myers Beach in October of 21.
Mm-hmm.
And right when I moved there, I was like, I have this vision. I'm going to do this walk on the beach. And it's going to be, let's remove silence, stigma, and shame from mental health, addiction, unplanned pregnancy, and suicide. Let's talk about it. Let's just talk about it so that people will come to me and talk about it rather than sit isolated thinking there's no hope. Mm-hmm. And when I planned it, I didn't really know very many people in Fort Myers Beach. So I thought if 5 people show up, that'll be great. 10, that'll be amazing. And 15, that'll be a miracle. Well, 17 people showed up. The sad part of that story, but how I believe we are called to use the pain that we have to move forward. The sad part of that story is at the time that I was on the beach walking with 17 people, is the night that my sister went to sleep and didn't wake up. And so I always think like I can't control everything and I can't control other people. I can pray for and I can hope for, but I can do my part. And I think when you do your part, Jamie, to say, let's get money to the suicide, let's do a walk, let's raise money, let's do whatever. Like, I just want to be a safe person. So when people are saying, Annie, I'm hopeless, like there is hope. And that's not, you might feel like suicide's the answer. It's not. And so to help you and then help everyone that loves you not have to watch you lose your life. And so my heart just goes out to that. But I do think the more we talk about it, and that's why even when I do corporate events, I do touch on mental health or suicide or something, because I know in every audience, someone's struggling or they love someone that is. So we have to talk about it. Because that's what I was going to say. Silence, stigma, and shame just repeat right into that darkness. But if we can openly talk and walk, and I met a social worker that was like, I love what you're doing. And she worked with unplanned pregnancy and addicts. And I'm like, all those things, shame keeps us small, but we're meant to live boldly and brightly. And so I love that.
It's amazing how you can change somebody's outlook and not even know it. And
Yes.
I think that's the best point of not only talking about it for them to hear it, but I think it also helps me when I talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Like when someone's down or, the timing, of course, last week was a tough week for all of us, all three of us in our, my immediate family. But having the conversation and just getting each other uplifted helps me as well. So
100%. It's part of our healing journey. So as I think about storms, I always think about at some point we get to decide, will we soar above? That doesn't mean we won't still be sad. That doesn't mean we won't have hard days. But when you think of soaring, like, and knowing your mother's, being able to talk to her still and have a relationship with her, when you think of soaring in your life, of overcoming this storm or of walking through at a higher level than where you began in this storm, what do you visualize for yourself, or what does soaring look like for you?
that's a great question. Trying to stay above the mundane little things that bring you down, right? Like life is short, enjoy it, focus on the things that bring you joy and let the other stuff go. I mean, that's a journey of my own that what is it, Frozen, where she sings Let It Go? Like that's what I need to do. So maybe that's kind of correlating with the whole soaring of just being at peace with, yeah, you feel the feels, you have the moments, you have the setbacks, but flying through life and enjoying it and doing the things that you love and spending the time with your family and your friends and having the conversations, having the laughs, right? Taking those moments of pause, helping people in our industry, of course, right? Like that's the thing that lights me up is our industry. Like, how can I help someone do whatever they need to do, whether it's working directly with them or just giving them, a next connection and taking it one day at a time. I mean, I will say that's a thing. And it just hit me. My mom used to say all the time, just take it one thing at a time, Jamie. And so I hear her voice say that. And I think that's the next level of soaring, right? Like you can't do it until you take the next step.
I love that. I want to tell you one thing I see about you, Soaring, that when we lose someone we love, it's easy to shut down. It's easy to decide, you know what, it is not, I'm not going to love again. It hurts too much. People hurt me. And when you talked about your partner and bringing him to the cemetery and talking to your mom, you lit up. And so one thing I see you in Soaring is you kept your heart, or you reopened, or you kept your heart open to love. And you've met this partner that wants to journey and soar with you. And I love watching people that have been hurt stay open to love, because it's easy to shut down when we've been hurt. And I've been there. I know that. And so I just love it when I'm like, no, I'm going to get hurt again. But you know what? I'm going to love, because it's better to love and lose than to not love. And it's more joyful to love, and it's more joyful to be happy. And going to the cemetery might be sad, but it doesn't have to be about suffering. It can also be about reintroducing my mom every time to my partner. And so I love that about you. It was beautiful. So as we close out here, Jamie, our listeners, they're leaning in. We're closing out the month of mental health focus. We're never closing out the conversation of mental health focus. But is there one last thought or idea or message or lesson that you want to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, I mean, take it one day at a time, right? Enjoy, find the things that bring you joy and share it with others.
Beautiful. And find the people that bring you joy and hang out with them. right?
Yes.
Laugh and love and move. And Jamie, I know people are going to love your messaging and love your story, might want to reach out. What's the best, like one place to reach out to you? Is it a website? Is it LinkedIn, Facebook? Where's the best place to connect?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, they're all out there. Email's best as well. But LinkedIn, Jaime Theresa Smith. And my email's jamie@choice.live.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to our listeners. Add your questions and comments to our chat, and we will make sure to respond to all of them, whether I will or Jamie will or both of us. But thank you
Awesome.
for listening. We
Thank
wish
you.
you a hopeful, healthy, and happy close to this month. We ask you to love on yourself and to look for someone to love on, even if they have a smile. Maybe they have a hurting heart and they could use your encouragement today. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.